Europe has seen a wash of anti-Semitic attacks following October the 7th.
I have your video.
Yeah, that was today. A Jewish man was senselessly attacked by thugs for removing an anti-Israel sticker at a train in Bruges, apparently. Well, it's been reported in the Times of Israel that he's since been hospitalised with a broken jaw, and with a 589% increase in anti-Semitic-related abuse showering the UK. Scenes like this in London have become all too common.
This is what they want. Don't do that. They don't want that.
OK, so, look, I was thinking, has multiculturalism actually failed in Britain? I'm joined now by my panel. I've got a former BBC chief political correspondent, John Sargent, a former, current political commentator, John Sargent, a political commentator as well, Alex Armstrong. I'm hoping that shortly we are going to be hearing a little bit from Suella Braverman yesterday. But, John, I'll come to you on this. Do you have reservations about whether or not multiculturalism, everything's rosy in the garden there?
No, everything's not rosy, of course, and the battle has to go on all the time. For my generation, it was all about the Holocaust, and once you'd gone through that, when I was 15, I think I went to one of the concentration camps. We were very much part of that generation which would think that anyone who was remotely anti-Semitic was deeply evil. That was just straightforward, good, bad. But every generation changes. Anti-Semitism is hundreds of years old. You've got to keep up the battle. And it's also true of lots of other problems about racial issues and all the rest of it. The idea that, you can just say, we've done that now, we've sorted that. No, you've never sorted out. People have got to keep up the battle and realise that every day, sometimes, you've got to think, wait a moment, this is, in fact, unpleasant. It's racist. We should fight against it.
It's not just anti-Semitism here. I know you're giving a couple of examples, and there does appear to be this huge explosion in it at the moment. But
because of Gaza,
yeah, because of world events, because of what's going on. But Joanna, do you think that multiculturalism in Britain is a success story, or indeed, for that matter, anywhere in Europe? I mean, we're going to talk a bit later on about Geert Wilders in the Netherlands. I mean, someone like him wouldn't come to power if a load of people in the Netherlands did not think there was an issue with their culture.
Well, I think that overall multiculturalism hasn't failed. I think that, people generally do live together, nicely. Obviously, there's extreme elements. But I think that, there's two sides to this as well. It's another thing where there's two sides. For example, with Islamophobia, that's gone up 600% after the October 7th attacks as well. And I think that a lot of the time when we have this conversation about multiculturalism and about integration and assimilation, we talk about, for example, people of the Muslim faith coming in, but it almost seems as if we don't talk about it when it comes to both sides as well.
Do you think, Alex, that some cultures integrate better than others?
Well, yeah, it's a fact, isn't it? We know that's a fact for sure. But let's look at Germany. They released their crime statistics by ethnicity, and per 100,000 people, Algerians, by a massive margin, it's 52% per 100,000 people were committing crime versus Germans at 1.9%. That is an incredible statistic. There's a reason why our government don't want to release those statistics, because they're worried it will cause people to start actually becoming more anti-immigrant, because we know those statistics are there. And so the problem is assimilation. All right. It's a failure to assimilate.
No, but can I just say one really important thing? I think when it comes to assimilation, I think that certain cultures get away with not assimilating. So, for example, with the Jewish faith, you'll have certain boroughs within London where, rightfully so, they want to live within their own community, around their own shops. But when we have that same conversation about Muslim people wanting to live near, halal shops, then that's a problem. Then they're not assimilating.
OK. Well, Suella Braverman was basically saying that she was concerned that with some of the protests that we're seeing outside of universities, or with some of the issues that we're seeing, demonstrations and that on the streets, that the problem is that it is allowing a situation to foster where people who do not share our values, or do not have British values, or do not actually particularly like Britain, maybe, have a platform to consistently shout about their views, John.
Well, it is a difficult time. There's no doubt that what's happening in the Middle East is polarizing opinion across the world. It's making it extremely difficult for us to continue with a sort of straightforward Israel as our ally. There's under terrific strain in terms of politics, with Biden saying they've gone too far, I'm not going to supply them with arms. Britain saying, no, we'll continue supplying Israel with arms, they're our ally. What happens if they're attacked by Iran with missiles and British arms could help them? All these issues there mean that for lots of people, this is a moment where they want to demonstrate, they're showing their feelings, and it's pumped up, of course, by the photographs every
Can I
night.
just say, as a bit of a, difference to my usual opinion, my stepfather's from Iran. He came to this country, he's contributed here, he's paid his taxes, he works hard, he's raised a family, and he's really settled into our society. And, there's something to be said about people who want to come here and make a good life. But what we're seeing, though, is, unfortunately, a younger generation of people coming here who dislike the West.
Now, that's a really important point, because it's funny you should mention Iran, actually, because I was jogging the other week, and some guy who turned out to be from Iran stopped me. We were having quite a good chat, and he said he came over years and years and years ago, and he said to me, this is in Maida Vale, which is near where this Islamic centre is, the Iranian Islamic centre is, and he said to me, you don't know what you're doing in this country. It was his generation that he says came over, and he says the generation after him are radical and hate us. He just said that they hate us and they're not shy about hating us. And it's tricky, though, isn't it, Joanna? Because we've got such a complex web now of people of different cultures, different identities. Maybe it's unreasonable to expect all of them to integrate into British culture seamlessly.
Well, I think it depends, again, what you mean by integration. If you mean leave all of your cultures behind, don't, eat certain foods and then, only have fish and chips and roast dinners. Some people are literally like, leave that behind.
Respect our way of life, don't actually dislike it. Do you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that obviously anybody who lives in this country shouldn't. If you hate it that much, obviously you're in your right to kind of critique it. I don't think that should be stopped. But if you actively hate it so much, then that is a problem. But what I think is a problem with Suella Braverman is that she stokes a lot of these things. And when you call it a hate march and you put people on the defensive, then you create this dividing line. And I think that is a huge problem, where we have politicians who we should respect and who should be beacons of bringing everybody together.
She was Home Secretary when she said this.
She's absolutely not backing down on that, by the way.
I know, but the point about this is, when you think of an old-fashioned, what I would regard as an old-fashioned Home Secretary, their job was to keep the temperature down, not increase it, not say, God, look at this hate marches, look at this, look at that.
Exactly.
That was their job. Their job was to make sure as much peace broke out as possible.
I also think her job is to tell the truth, and they are, in my view.
Tell the truth, God.
So coming up...